This is a Barberis that I got from my local big box nursery. So I got this a little over a year ago, and it was in like a big 5 gallon container, and I got it obviously because it had a pretty thick trunk for some, for a Barberis. Usually the ones you see in the nursery have a lot of skinny, spindly trunks, and I just kind of saw this line in this trunk here. And I couldn't really resist it. So I got it last winter, probably about this time, and in the springtime, I basically just did its first styling, its first root work. You can see some of the big scars where I cut branches. So there was a big branch here. And let me actually bring you guys in a little bit closer here. So we're looking at this. So there is a big branch here that I removed. You can see some here, here, here. They're all up in here. There was obviously a leader that I cut off. So I did a lot of work on this tree, and then obviously it was in a 5 gallon pot, and I got it in this pot here. Now speaking of, there is some issues that I have with this root base here. So I have this big bulge on the top right here. I'm gonna try and make it easier to see that there. So right in there, and it's not ideal, but looking back from far away, it is all radial. And you know what? I'm not a professional. I'm doing this for fun. So what are you gonna do when you're working with nursery stock? That's what you get. I don't really like to buy fully set bonsai because they're expensive, and the joy of it is the process. And frankly, I mean, already I'm very proud of this. 5 years from now, this is going to be 10 times as developed. So I enjoy the process. So what we're going to do today is we're going to clean up the soil here. There's some dead leaves and some weeds. And then we're gonna basically just put some wire on this, maybe do a little bit of pruning. So that's kind of the objective for today. So we're gonna get started here. This gauge should be enough. What I've learned is the way that you wanna see if a gauge of wire is big enough is you wanna stretch it out like that and push it down. And if you can bend the branch, then your wire is thick enough. So this wire will be more than thick enough for every branch on this tree. Some of these I'll probably double up, but I don't really have a gauge in between this and the next step. So yeah, we're gonna start wiring this up. This has basically lost its way. It's still a really nice looking structure, but basically these guys need to come down into shape. I had them wired and they've just kind of sprung up as I cut it off. So we're gonna just kind of pull this down and try and bring it back to the triangular shape today. Legendary Mr. Peter Chan always talks about the 2 branch principle. Oh God. So that is when you take a piece of wire And we are going to use this one piece of wire to wire 2 branches. So I'm going to do this branch here and this branch here in the back. So let's do that. So I'm going to set this up in this crotch here, right like that. I'm not going to do that branch first because it's a little weaker. I'm going to pull this up here around this main tongue, and when you're doing this, you're getting it really tight. And then basically you're just kind of doing a spiral. You're trying to do even distance, and it's honestly a lot easier than it looks. You do kind of have to go in between the buds, but you know, it's once you do it, you kind of get a feel. You do have to be very careful, particularly when you're putting it on these bottom parts, because these crotches here where it joins the main trunk, these are really weak parts of this branch in terms of it tearing off from the main trunk. So when I'm putting this wire on, I have this finger on the inside here supporting that and that wire as I make this next turn. So that's very important. So we're going to come over, and again we're going around the buds or between the buds, but we are making a concerted effort to not get those buds. And then we will clip off the excess here. Okay, so we've got those 2 branches wired. I don't bother styling it until the whole thing is wired, so let's get the whole thing wired. And that's because as I'm wiring these other branches, I'm likely to bump some of these other branches. There. You want to pull it tight against the branch, right? Because that's what's going to allow you to have the most bending power. So as I'm doing this, I'm kind of trying to keep it as snug as I can, but I also don't want to damage the buds. Especially when you get out to the tip there, you don't really need that. These branches aren't developed or ramified yet, so I don't need to worry about that kind of, you know, tertiary wiring at this stage. Okay. So, there's another 2 branches done. So I've just got these 3 branches left to do. Very careful and put my thumb underneath here, right here against the trunk, halfway on the trunk, halfway on this branch, and I'm going to be able to then do my wiring. So I'm going to wire, you put your thumb under on the bottom, and the way that you want to bend, wherever the wire is, so I want to put a bend like a U shape right here, and the way I know where to go is the wire on the top. So I basically have 3 different areas where I could effectively bend this branch on this tree. This spot here, where the wire comes over, this spot here, or this spot here. So basically, I want to bend it down, so those are my 3 options. If I wanted to bend it forward or backwards, these are my 3 options. So basically here, I'm going to put a little bit of movement on this first one, and I'm going to be really careful supporting that bend. So there's my first movement right there. Any more, and I could see it starting to get really weak right up here. Any more in this area, and I could tear this branch from the trunk. But that already has that branch coming down a lot more. So I'm gonna put a little bit more movement in this bend here, and then I have a bud here, and I have a bud right here on the top. So ultimately one day I'll try and twist this branch like this so that the buds are shooting out of both of the sides here. Let's actually see if we can, no, I can't get any twist in it now without damaging these buds. So I'm just gonna put a little bit more of a bend right there, like so, and that's it for that branch for this year. So we're gonna do this one next, and this one we're gonna do basically the same thing. So I'm gonna get my thumb under this crutch here, right here, and then I'm going to put another thumb right here, because here's the top of this wire. So I'm gonna put my first bend right there on this top, and then I'm gonna come right here, that's a thorn, and I'm gonna put a little bend. Now, here we have this branch, and I had pruned it, and last year it grew this branch. So I have a nice movement change right there. So I don't actually need to bend this one as much, because I wanna keep the natural as much as possible. It's gonna look a lot better, but I think it does need to come down just a little bit more. So there we go. This back one I think needs to be done next. So this back one you can see is already kind of coming off in that same curved manner. So I think I'm gonna just enhance that a little bit because it got a little, like I said, sprung up. So that's better. And then I think we need to put a little bit of a bend right there. Too much, this is a deciduous tree. So there we go, look at that. And then this is just too long. So I wasn't sure, but I've got healthy buds. We'll do that for now. What do we have here? Yeah. We're gonna just straight up take this all the way back to there. So there's our back branch, and it's hard to see, but there's actually two branches here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see them there in that angle. So those will be nice. I have buds all over both of those. This I can actually cut back just a little bit. So there we go. Okay, so next thing to do, oh, I missed this branch to wire. It's a thick one too. I have a scrap here that I think is just big enough to do this branch. Before I finish. Trying to do some tight coils on this guy. The tighter the coil, obviously, the more spaces on the top you have as options to bend, and in general, it's just gonna be better. Be putting more bend in the whole piece. Okay. So I'm gonna do with this branch here next. It's still going way vertical. I basically want to flip that silhouette completely on its head. So again, I'm gonna go right here in this crutch with this. I'll just use this finger. How do I do this without blocking it? So I'm gonna put this finger up here is what I'm gonna put pressure with. All right, this guy. And I have this finger here supporting the crotch. This thumb is gonna go right smack dab under this wire on the top here where I wanna bend. So I'm putting pressure on all three at the same time, and I'm bending, and that's what's giving me that shape. Now I wanna pull the whole crotch a little bit down, and I'm using two fingers there to protect it top and bottom. So now that we've pulled this down, I can see what I was doing. So I think this branch, fuck. We got a crack, boys. We got a freaking crack right there. So it's okay. I'm not gonna panic. Half of it is split in half, so I'm confident, honestly, that I can put some bend it back a little bit and put some woolen paste on this puppy J, and we'll be good to go. I am gonna milk it. There we go. Let's, see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see if we can get this. There we go There we go. Okay, so my wound paste is somewhere else. It's outside, so I'll have to do that later. But it's whatever. I actually grew that entire branch last year, and that's what happened. So going back to this view, I think I want to pull this guy down just a little bit like so to kind of fill in that a little bit better. Okay, so that's done. It looks crappy right now, but it's because this wire is making it look straight. There's actually a really nice movement to that branch. Okay, let's do this big guy here next. So this guy, same deal. Definitely needs to come down. And then you can kind of see that's how I had it. But that branch is way too big and it's out of scale, right? You're trying to create a miniature tree. And if these are my bottom branches, that means these are my oldest branches, and that also means these should be the thickest. Now, this is a nursery stock tree, so, whatever, it's early in its life, but realistically, this branch is a fault. And it's grown a lot, it's getting a lot of energy. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it off here, because that helps bring it back in scale with that lower shape. I'm gonna pull this a little bit more, pull this, bend that a little bit as well, and there we go. Now that is more in line with this triangle here. It's not perfect yet, but it'll be nice. And I also think I'm gonna snap this upward growing piece off. I don't want that. Okay, so now let's finish the top. So if we look at our whole line, we start down here and we go up this way, and then we come back this way, and then we kind of come up this way, and I think right here we should come this way again. So right about there, I'm going to introduce a movement change. So I already did this last year, but I didn't do too much because this is brittle wood, so as we just saw. But I do want to get as much as I can. Oh snap, yeah, it's cracking. So I think that's about what I can get out of it, but I mean, that's great. So I have this one branch here in the back sticking up that you can see that needs to be dealt with still. So same principle as everything else we've been doing. We're going to support the crotch where we're putting a lot of downward pressure. And then, wow. I'm excited because, I don't have, been doing this for a while, but it's always exciting to see these trees start to actually, become bonsai. So, well, that branch is almost surely a goner, but hey, we'll see what happens. That's me being a little overzealous with the bends, and, bonsai is about patience, and that's really, not how it should be going, but fuck them. So, I would like to try and deal with this root here. Because it's just such a big bulbous guy right here in the front. But we'll see. For now, it is what it is, and it looks kind of sick. Oh god, those aren't even alive. Okay. Well. I'm definitely going to have to rethink this then, because that was a big part of the design. Well, other shit's still alive, so I drove too hard. Yeah, and I'm not going to be repotting this. It's fine. The, water still drains really healthily through this pot. I think it's more than fine to go for another year. So that's the plan. This is, all my mixes have at least half lava rock, so, there's enough space in there that I'm not particularly worried. And that is the Barberis. So I'll do more updates on this tree in the future, particularly in the springtime. So stay tuned for that. I'm gonna get out of my little corner here and take you guys in close. So bear with me a second. There's the big bulge that I was talking about. So sucks that it's on the front. Yeah. Thanks for watching.